Wow. So incredible to be here, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shawn. I am from Canada. And I just have this message for all of you here, from the people from the north, the people from Canada, that winter is coming. Winter is coming. Winter is coming. One lady was actually really worried. She's like, winter is coming? No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. But winter is coming to organizations and industries around disruption and innovation. This is what I'm obsessed about. This is all I read, write, work, and speak on. I've spent my entire career in this innovation space. You know, and it's funny, when I talk to people about innovation, I usually tell them this, that the dirty secret to explosive innovation is that nothing is truly original. Everything is a remix. Everyone steals, copies, and combines ideas, and this is where we see the magic happening. A good example of this is the internet, and you know this already. You might have a creative or genius idea, and you'll find 1,000 people online with the exact same idea as you. It is actually impossible to come up with a truly original idea. Impossible. I've had one original idea in my life, and the internet completely ruined its novelty. Let me explain. About a decade ago, I was going to propose to my then girlfriend, Deepa. And you know these proposals, there's a lot of pressure to make these proposals good and fun and unique. And this was my idea. I was going to rent out a movie theater. And somehow, I would make a movie. And in the storyline of the movie, I'd be proposing to her on the screen, and then she'd be sitting right beside me and proposing right there and then. And so I remade the movie I Am Legend. Has anybody heard this movie? No, it's okay. It wasn't a great movie. I invited all my friends and my family and her friends and her family, and they all came to this movie theater, and I'm going to show you the proposal. But I'm not going to show you the entire proposal, but I'll tell you why in a little bit. But this is essentially what happened in the movie theater.
Will you marry me?
Oh.
Deepa, will you marry me?
Thank you for your applause. It's very nice of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everything worked out very well. We have 2 kids now. It worked out very well. But what my girlfriend said at the time, she said, you know what you should do, Shawn? You should take this video and then put it on YouTube and then send it to Ellen DeGeneres, because then she'll have us on and then she'll give us a whole bunch of stuff. Like a honeymoon. And you know what, I was feeling really skeptical of this idea because I know that the internet has created these new behaviors. Notice trolling or memes. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I just imagine somebody taking my face and going like, I love you, I love you, I love you, like making a rap remix of my face. Or putting something on my face, like, I don't know if you see these Snapchat filters, like, this is what's happening. You know the reason why we don't have flying cars is because of this. There's also another thing called GIFs. You know what I'm talking about? I'm not going to show you a GIF of myself, but I'm going to show you my favorite GIF. It's a really great GIF to use if you really love it. It's called the Gary Payton GIF. It's really great to use. If you're surprised about something, it's really great to use. Anyways, I didn't want to put it up on the internet because of this whole idea of trolls and memes. But literally a year later, a year after I proposed, this happened.
Speaking of creative, I don't know if anybody saw this on YouTube. It's going around like crazy. I think there's 13 million views on YouTube already. He put this whole movie trailer together, got his girlfriend to go to the movies, and he proposed to her at the theater through this entire movie. And coming here and sharing your story with us, a movie phone is going to give you a $100 gift card, so you can go. And then to watch them on, we're going to give you an entertainment center. We'll walk over here to see a Vizio entertainment center. You see all that right there that's playing on there? How beautiful and clear the picture is? Yeah, that would be nice to be there. So our friends at Hilton Hotels and Resorts are sending you on an all-inclusive honeymoon at Montego Bay, Jamaica.
My wife is still pissed off to this day about this. And you know what? I did a last check on YouTube, and you'll find 100 guys that have proposed to their girlfriends in movie theaters. They've taken this completely original idea and made it done overnight. And this is the internet, ladies and gentlemen. It is the largest repository of innovative ideas, yes, but it's still the largest copying machine on the planet. It's still a new challenge in this era. But of course, the internet has created amazing opportunities. We wouldn't have this amazing company Xero without the internet. I believe that today we live in a drag and drop world. You need code, you need design, you need talent from anywhere. It's just a matter of bringing the best things that people have done and bringing these things together. So why am I bringing up the internet to you? Everybody knows it. Well, the reason why I'm bringing it up is that it's a beautiful combination. The internet was a beautiful combination of individual technologies like computing and networking coming together, creating this disruptive force known as the internet. Well, today what is happening, ladies and gentlemen, is you have all these technologies that are seemingly going from somebody's basement to mainstream, from irrelevant to relevant, from nothing to something, and these technologies are converging. And now we're actually getting multiple disruptive forces. We're getting the internet times 10 that is happening. And I call this era the exponential era. And in the exponential era, we need a different mindset. You know, Steve talked about this before, about the change mindset. I believe that we actually need an exponential mindset. And I'll get into that a little bit. But before I get into this whole idea of an exponential mindset, I have to give you a bit of background on myself when it comes to innovation. I started my career in the early 2000s at a company called Singapore Press Holdings in Singapore. They had a monopoly over all the newspapers in Singapore. And my job was to be their media strategist, their futurist, to figure out what the future of media would look like. And to be honest with you, I had no idea how to do this job. So I remember asking my boss at the time, Tony Malik, I said, how do you go about being a media strategist? He said, it's really easy, Shawn. All you have to do is take a look at what the best companies are doing around the world and take the best practices from the best companies and implement those things here at Singapore Press Holdings. The other thing he said is go on the street and meet our consumers and our customers and ask them what they want. And this is what I did right here. I don't know why I was so close to him, but this is a different era. But at the time, what we were talking about in terms of innovations were how do we go from a broadsheet newspaper to a tabloid-sized newspaper? Like, how could somebody read a newspaper on a train? In fact, that's what this guy said as well. How can I read a newspaper on the train? We never talked about social or mobile or cloud or analytics or any of the ways that people get media today. Most people get their media through social media, Twitter and Facebook today. And you know what? Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night thinking to myself, as like waking up in a nightmare, that I am the reason why the newspaper industry sucks because of my work. And actually, I will never make the same mistake again. Number one, which is getting really romantic about what my competitors are doing, but instead getting really understanding what's happening at a macro level and not getting so caught up exactly with what my consumers are saying because they may not know either. And I believe that this requires a different mindset when you think about innovation. I call it the exponential mindset. And I want to introduce a term to you that you probably have never heard before. It's the exponential accountant. You know, Steve talked about this idea of an established thinking versus a change mindset. I call this just linear and exponential, just different terminology. Today, I'm going to show you what an exponential accountant looks like. It's somebody who's focused on capabilities and automation, and using the ecosystems around us, and experimentation, and this whole idea of unlearning. So we're going to go through some of these things. Now, the first thing that I want to go through is this idea of jobs and skills and talent, because everybody talks about this. In fact, most small businesses are grappling with talent issues. And anytime I think about talent in the future, I often think about my kids. I have a 3-year-old named Maya, and I have a 2-month-year-old named Dion. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm like really excited to be here today, but I was also really excited to get 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. It was amazing. Oh my God. Thank you. Couple parents, clapping. Yeah, you know it. The thing that I think about, because I'm a disruption strategist, my job is to walk into organizations and to help them disrupt the status quo, basically take them out of business before somebody else does. The thing that I think about all the time is like, what will my kids do in the future? What skills or jobs will be relevant in the future? This is what I'm thinking about. And sometimes I think about my kids, and then I think about my parents. See, my parents immigrated to Canada, and they risked everything to come there. And I remember once my parents asking me, they said, Shawn, what do you want to be when you grow up? And like we heard earlier, if you're from Canada, you want to be a hockey player. And then my parents said, no, here's the definite list of things that you can do. You can be a doctor, an engineer, accountant, a lawyer, or you can marry a doctor. These were the options. And you know what they told me? That these jobs are safe. These jobs are safe. And you know what? They had the best of intentions. But today, technology is not on an exponential scale. And now you have things like artificial intelligence and machine learning that are impacting the future viability of some of these jobs. You know, it's funny, I was around the dinner table with my family a number of months ago, and we were all talking about our dreams and our careers growing up. And first I asked my brother, my older brother, like, what was your dream growing up? And he said, my dream was to be a doctor. And he actually became a doctor, good for him. And then I asked my mother, you know, she's an immigrant from India, moved to Canada. She said, my dream is that my children would become doctors. And I said, does that mean like I'm a disappointment? She said, yes, absolutely. But then she continued on, she said, now I have a new dream. My new dream is that your children become doctors. This is an epidemic, by the way. This is an epidemic. But, you know, sometimes I get worried about this idea of jobs and industries of the future and what my kids will do. But I do know that the jobs and industries evolve. In fact, everybody in this room, your job will fundamentally evolve over the next 10 to 15 years. It will. And I know this because if I look at the last 15 years, these jobs didn't exist 15 years ago. A voice interface designer, a vlogger, an esports athlete, a VR, AR application designer, an Uber driver. A Xero advisor did not exist. But look, it exists today. There's another job that I actually didn't list there that has fundamentally changed media and culture and entertainment, and you can get thousands of dollars in brand deals doing this. It's called an Instagram model. You could do this. You can definitely, I tried this myself. It didn't really work. But you know, I get worried about, like I said, I get worried about this idea of jobs and skills of the future because I know the industries will change, jobs will change, your job will change, and the talent that you hire might change as well. And I believe for an accounting firm, this is the type of talent that you might actually hire. More advisors, more data scientists, more blockchain specialists, bot managers, videographers, creatives, and design thinkers. Why do you need creative people? Well, when automation takes care of some of the redundant and manual processes, we can actually double down on our customers and our employees and try to influence and persuade using storytelling. And so this is going to be the most exciting time for accounting, and I believe that the sexiest job in the world of the future will be accounting. It will be. It will be. And yes. And I think in this exponential era, when we think about jobs and skills, I actually think the conversation should not be about jobs and skills. It actually should be about capabilities. And I think that the organizations that will differentiate themselves in the future are the organizations that actually work. They exercise their human capabilities, the ones that you see on the wall. These will be way more important in this new era. And this will be the competitive advantage when we have all these exponential technologies and ecosystems at our fingertips. Now, one of the technologies, and we can't go through this entire couple days without hearing about it, is around artificial intelligence and machine learning. And you know, there's a lot of hype when it comes to AI machine learning. I know it because I'm from this city called Edmonton. We're third best in the world when it comes to AI research. I'm working with a lot of the data researchers there. I have a number of machine learning guys on my team. This is what we're doing all day long, is working on data, machine learning. Like, this is what we're obsessed about. And everybody will tell you that are actually in this space, there's a lot of hype around this space. And the hype right now, when it comes to AI machine learning, is this idea of, will robots take my job? This is what everybody's talking about. In fact, if you want to know if your job will be taken by a robot, there's a really great site. It's called willrobotstakemyjob.com. And I recommend everybody to go on it. Not now, but I actually did a bit of research last night to see how those jobs that my parents told me to get are doing. So the first thing that I did was I put in physicians to see how they would do in this world of automation. And it turned out that they were 0.42%. That's very good. That's very good. Congratulations, any doctors here. Then I put in engineers to see how they would do. And they were 1.4%. totally safe. Then I put in the job that everybody, loves to hate a little bit, lawyers, to see how they would do. They were totally safe as well. Congratulations. And then, of course, I put in accounting to see how we would do in the world of automation, artificial intelligence. And it turned out that we were 94% and completely doomed. I'm sorry, is there any accountants here today? I'm sorry. We could always be an Instagram model. I think that's a viable job. But you know what? I think that artificial intelligence is going to be the greatest thing for accountants. I truly believe that. It's going to be the greatest thing since Luca Pacioli invented the first accounting textbook in 1494. The reason is because we need to separate this idea of tasks and jobs when it comes to AI machine learning. If your job is to enter something into an Excel document, then yeah, your job is going to be eliminated. But most jobs have more complexity. It requires imagination and intuition and communication and teamwork. And this is why it's going to be the greatest thing for accountants, because now we can actually double down on the things that matter, like our customers, our clients, and our employees. And I really can't wait for the future. I really do think that this is the greatest time in the exponential era to be an accountant because of some of these technologies. And if you want a glimpse of what an AI exponential technology future will look like in terms of accounting, I love my philosopher that I always go back to. Her name is Kelly Rowland. Let me just explain this for a second. I don't know if you remember this, but in the early 2000s, there was a music video with Nelly and Kelly. It was called Dilemma. And in that music video, Kelly Rowland was seen texting Nelly using Microsoft Excel. I don't know if you remember this happening. Let me give you a glimpse of, this was happening in the music video. She was texting Nelly. And of course, this thing, of course she was mad. Nelly wasn't texting back, it was on Excel. And actually, obviously this became a huge meme. And she responded a couple months ago. She actually responded to this, and this is what she said.
Here's the sitch, okay?
Explain it.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what Microsoft Excel is. I don't know. I don't have a clue.
And the one thing that I was thinking about when I saw this was, God damn, she's had a good life. Damn, she doesn't know what Excel is. But I think this is the future. I think Kelly Rowland is the future. 99.9% of accountants use Excel. And I think in the future, because of all these different technologies, we can actually remove Excel. We can remove all those manual things that we're doing in Excel and actually focus in on the things that actually matter. It's either that or Excel will evolve their product and now we can text through Excel. I don't know, one of those things. One of those things. But I think the other thing that has really transformed in this exponential era is this whole idea of ecosystem. Steve talked about this very well. For me, this has saved my life, this idea of working with ecosystems. Traditionally within organizations, if you want to get work done, you would walk in the office and you would say, who is available to do this work and when can I get this work done? Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, talent is ubiquitous. You can get really great talent anywhere. There are sites like Upwork, the largest freelancer marketplace on the planet where you can get anybody to do anything at a radically cheaper cost. There's micro workers from sites like Fiverr, an entire marketplace where people will do things for $5 or more. There's sites like 99 Designs using a crowd where you put up a design project. Hundreds of people get paid. Or hundreds of people put up their project, one gets paid actually. That's the state of design right now. And so talent is really ubiquitous. This has fundamentally changed my behavior. Anytime I have a particular task, I say, do I need to do this work? Or can somebody else do this work from the human talent spectrum? Can they do this faster and better than me? It's changed the behavior of my teams. Back in the day, we used to hire really smart people out of school. And then we would get them to do data entry and copying, pasting between decks and all this manual work. But now they're becoming more like freelance managers. They're curating content and analysis and recommendations from all over the world. And they're developing management and leadership skills right off the get-go because they're using this entire human talent spectrum. It's really changed everything. And I believe what it has done the most, it has empowered the individual more than ever before. I believe today the individual is the most powerful entity in the world because now we have everything at our fingertips. We have the ecosystems at our fingertips. And if you want to know, how we can unlock these ecosystems, you already have it at your fingertips. See, what Xero has done, it is actually giving you the foundation and the platform to innovate on top of it. That is the beauty of Xero. It's not a product. It is literally a platform and an ecosystem so that you can build on top of it, whether it's automation or connecting with some of those innovators and entrepreneurs that are creating amazing apps and services in that convention center. And it's using other things outside of the Xero ecosystem. It's building unique partnerships. It's using the API economy, the tools and technologies that are already out there. It's using the crowd and freelancers. This, to me, is the most impactful disruptive force. We talk about technologies. This is really about community. It really is. And to give you a glimpse of how a small business can really tap in and utilize these ecosystems, because I'm a business analyst, I'm a strategist, I love this one stat. It's called market valuation per employee. Basically, how much is your company worth with how many people work in your office? Now, if I were to ask you which company has the best market cap or valuation per employee, which company would you say? Of course, Xero. Xero is worth $1 gazillion because you can't value it. But other than Xero, what company would you say has the best market cap valuation per employee? Just yell it out. Apple, Instagram. This company that I really love is run by a 21-year-old mother, and her market cap per valuation is more than any of the companies that you were thinking in your mind. Kylie Jenner, Kylie Cosmetics. Let me remind you, this is a Kardashian. She's got $1 billion company with 7 employees. How has she done this? Well, all her warehousing and production is done by a third-party company called C Beauty. All her e-commerce is done by a Canadian company called Shopify. Her PR and finance is done by somebody else. She's basically doubled down on what she is good at, which is branding and social media in novel ways, and using the ecosystems and the automation around her to build an exponential organization. And this is the reason why I'm bringing up a Kardashian at a Xero event, is that I think this is the potential for small businesses, is to utilize all these things around us to really build exponential organizations. You know, it's funny, Mark Zuckerberg was the youngest billionaire ever at 23 years old, and today it is Kylie Jenner at 21. And she's a Kardashian, it's crazy. It's like peak 2019, it's crazy. You know, the other thing that has really changed organizations, and Steve talked about it before, is that technology doesn't disrupt, people disrupt. And I believe that what has changed most in this new exponential era is this shift in expectations. Now organizations are demanded to create things that are real-time and seamless and on-demand and 24/7 and now. And they're getting this. They're starting to get this. Even governments are starting to get this. I'm not sure if you know this, but in Canada, cannabis is actually legal. I don't know if you know this. And it's crazy. The government has understood that people really value things that are fast and easy. In fact, in 2009 in Canada, you would have said, I don't want the government listening to my phone. In 2019, you would say, the government just same day delivered my weed. This actually happens. You can do this in Canada. It's crazy. So they really have understood this new behavior. Although organizations are getting this, sometimes as human beings, we can't process these major shifts. Even if you are part of the gig economy, sometimes you won't even know that you're part of the gig economy. That's how fast things change. I'll give you an example of this. I was in Toronto a couple months ago, and a really nice woman picked me up. Her name was Jacqueline. She had a 4.99 rating. That's actually very good. And I remember she was driving me, and she was complaining to me because her job was a makeup artist. That was her day job. And she was driving me, and she was complaining to me that, now there's all these girls that are making money putting up makeup tutorials on YouTube. And now there's all these girls making money doing freelance makeup. And they're doing all of this without a cosmetology license. I said, that's crazy. I said, there's also all these random people picking up random people from the street without a taxi license. She did not like that at all. She kind of gave me that Gary Payton look that I was talking about earlier, but it's crazy. You could be literally driving an Uber and not understanding that you are part of the gig economy. This is what has changed the most, really. You know, when we talk about exponential technologies and expectation shifts, people talk about artificial intelligence and VR and AR and blockchain and all these things. To me, the most disruptive technology is actually voice. It's because of the people that are actually adopting it. You know, my daughter is 2.5 years old. She can barely put phrases together, but she's already telling Google to get stuff done for her. On the flip side, I look at my mother. You know, she's 70 years old. She missed the internet revolution. She missed the mobile revolution, but she uses voice 100 times a day. Now you have two people in my life that have missed every technology revolution before it, and they're talking to each other on a voice device. It's wild. It's crazy to see. This is my daughter talking to my mother on an Echo Spot. And if I watch how my daughter uses this thing, yeah, she can drop into her grandma. I mean, that's really great. But she knows that this device gets us the weather, it gets us the traffic, it turns on Moana for her. But what I do know is that this technology will also be the technology that gets her her financial data, her health data, and much, much more. And so the reason why this is going to be the most disruptive technology is because it's already in her DNA. She's already walking around asking for things around her. And this is the power of voice. And the reason why I know this is going to be a big thing, Amazon is already saying that this is going to be the next big disruptor. I believe that the next billion-dollar companies will be built on top of voice. And the reason why I know this is because everybody in this room thinks voice is creepy. You're like, I don't want this thing listening to me. But this is the whole thing with every innovation. It starts out as creepy, and then it changes the norm. This always happens. When the internet came out, people said, I'm not going to put my credit card online. And then everybody did. And I remember when the Facebook news feed came out, and I remember this clearly. When the news feed came out, people said, oh my God, like you can see who's friends with who, you can see who's liking whose pictures, you can see who's poking each other. I don't think you can see who's poking each other, but that would be a good feature. But everybody got Facebook. And the news feed now is a default way that everybody goes through social media now. Like you look at Facebook, IG, Twitter, it is the news feed, but everybody got it. How many people in this room have bought or sold something on Craigslist or Facebook marketplaces? Like, raise your hand. Holy crap. Pretty much anyone, everyone. Definitely a group of accountants. And when you're making that transaction, in the back of your mind, you're thinking to yourself, I really hope that that person is not a serial killer. But you still make that transaction because it's fast and it's seamless and it's efficient. And this is the whole thing with voice. It's not listening to you. It's only listening to you wake it up. And everybody will have this in their house. Everybody will have it in their office. And Xero will be a part of this as well. It will. And so this is part of the expectation shifts, that every innovation starts out as creepy, and then we adapt. We change because of this. Maybe you know about some of these innovations, these disruptive forces that are happening already. I really think that there's a couple things that are stopping organizations from innovating. In my experience working with some of the best companies across this continent, here's the one thing that I do know that stops organizations from innovating. I call this thing nostalgia. Sometimes we get paralyzed around what's working today or what was working in the past around our business. It's called nostalgia. And if you look at some of the best organizations in the world, they never get nostalgic about the business that they're in. The CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings, the toughest decision that he ever had to make as the CEO of Netflix is when he literally had to kick out the DVD team from the main management meeting at Netflix because they weren't open to the new technologies that were coming out, which was streaming. And so he literally had to kick out the team that was making all the money at Netflix. This is the toughest decision that he ever had to make. And that takes a lot of courage to do, to kick out the team that's making all the money. And so if you look throughout history, the organizations that have survived, that have evolved, never got nostalgic about the business that they were in. And in my experience, setting up innovation teams and helping solve innovation problems, this is my epiphany when it comes to working with some of these companies, is that the most established companies in the world, the best companies in the world, are the most vulnerable to disruption. Let me repeat, the best companies in the world are the most vulnerable to disruption. By the way, the best companies in the world hire the best people. They have the best talent. They're going to all the events and conferences and hearing about all the trends and the new technologies, yet they're still the most vulnerable to disruption. Why is that? The reason is because the most established organizations get really nostalgic about their existing business model and processes, and it becomes very difficult to pivot and move when the environment changes around you. This is how these organizations get caught. So then how do you navigate? How do you move forward? In my experience, I think the best way of doing this is through experimentation. It's with small problems and small teams and small sprints and seeing how we can move the needle. You know, as accountants, we don't like this idea of taking risks. And I think experimentation is actually about de-risking projects. I have seen this work. You know, I worked for Deloitte for 12 years. And in Edmonton, you know, we were the first team to try things like drones and artificial intelligence and crowdsourcing and film deliverables and podcasts, because we had this notion of let's just put everything on the table and try small sprints with small teams. And we were able to build an amazing culture of innovation because we were first to try out wild and crazy things. And I've seen this really work in terms of building a culture of innovation. And people ask me, who is responsible for experimentation within my organization? Is it the CEO? Is it the chief digital officer? Is it the guy who's running IT? It is literally everybody's job within the organization to experiment. It is literally your job to figure out how do we make things not 5 to 10% better, but how do we make things 5 to 10x better? It's everybody's job. You know, oh, by the way, I didn't bring any business cards with me, so you can send me a note if you want these slides. They're a huge file. It's like a gig. But you know, it's funny. I've had the good privilege of working with hundreds of organizations when it comes to innovation. And people love innovation. People love hearing about the future. And you know this, what I'm doing right now, like this is cinema. This is like theater. This is like box office. It's really fun. It's really great. The difference between this and actual experimentation is that when you go back to the office, you actually feel a behavior change when you actually do something small. You know, one of the things that we did at Deloitte, which was really impactful, is I wanted to show people what the future of using this gig economy, this global talent economy really looked like. So what I did was I gave everybody in Western Canada $5. And I said to them, I just want you to go on Fiverr and get something done for $5. Could be anything, it could be a logo, a voiceover, whatever. Just get it done. Send me back the product and we'll have a conference call where we can see all the products that everybody got. And to me, that was really powerful because now people are now doing something. They're actually saying, wait a minute, somebody else can get something done for me at a radically cheaper cost. To me, that's a behavior change, and it doesn't have to be a big project or a big initiative. It's a small experiment with a little bit of funding. I think it's really powerful. You know, one of the things that is most important when we talk about an exponential accountant is this idea of unlearning. And I really love this story by this sociologist named Carl Weick. He has this really powerful example. See, this sociologist studied wilderness firefighters. And they would go in treacherous situations fighting fires. And sometimes when there's a disaster, these firefighters, they would actually have to run from the fire. And the unusual observation that Weick discovered was that the firefighters that died, they all died with the tools in their hands. These tools that would actually encumber their running. They were still running with these heavy tools. And in fact, in the testimonials of the survivors, the people who escaped the fires, they were like, yeah, we were just thinking about where to bury our tools. This is what they were thinking. Where should I bury my tool when I'm actually escaping from this fire? It actually makes zero sense because the tool has now become irrelevant. And the thing that the sociologist discovered was that the reason why they didn't want to drop the tools is because the tools were part of their own identity. It was part of their own upbringing. Their whole life was associated to this tool. And I see this all the time within organizations, is that we get really romantic with our own tools. And sometimes, listen, when the world is changing, when you have all these exponential technologies, when every business is a global business, your environment is changing. So that actually requires us to drop our tools. And so this means we might have to actually unlearn some of the things that we've been brought up with. And just to summarize, if I want to talk about what an exponential accountant really looks like, this is it. It's somebody who's focused on capabilities, not just jobs and skills. Somebody who's focused on automation, not just manual processes. Somebody who's focused on using their ecosystems around them as opposed to doing things alone. Those who are really focused on experimentation versus just making things really efficient. And this idea of unlearning and learning, which I think is most important. And you know what? I've had an epiphany working with some of these organizations. And Steve mentioned this as well, is, I believe that all the tools and technologies that we ever needed are now out there. All the knowledge that we ever wanted is commoditized. All the partners and talent that we ever needed is now ubiquitous. And the aggregate of all of human history and knowledge and creativity and partners actually now sits in our pocket. Now, these things are no longer differentiators. I believe that the things that will differentiate people in the future is really having an exponential mindset. I think that's what will differentiate people in the future. And ladies and gentlemen, it is actually a huge honor for me to be here today. I am a CPA. My wife's a CPA. My father was a CPA. He had his own accounting practice in the desktop era. He passed away about 12 years ago. And I am the last person on the planet that wants to see this profession turn into a commodity or an algorithm. And I believe that the accountants that will lead the future will be the ones that embrace this exponential era. It requires us to take it and run with it. Thank you so much for your time. Now I'm looking at the team. We have about 5 minutes. Can we do one question? 2 questions? Yeah? 2 questions? Should we get a question? I'm looking. Jason, you're good. I'm sorry again. We're good? Okay, one here.
Yeah, how fast do you think this will happen? Say it again. How fast do you think this change over to the exponential?
Yeah,
mindset
exponential era. That's right. That's
well,
right.
What kind of pacing are we talking about here? Is this the next 5 years, next 10 years, 20? Where are we at?
Great question. The thing with technology is that they all accelerate at different rates. But it is happening right now. It's been happening. And sometimes it's difficult for us to realize that it's actually happening to us. And I just showed you around those major shifts. There's an element of timing when it comes to some of these exponential technologies. Not everything will be relevant today. We've been talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning for like 20 years. And now it's like really relevant today. You hear about it all the time. As opposed to something like ride sharing, for example, literally coming out of nowhere. A lot of people talking about blockchain, but how many people are actually developing applications that are in the hands of every single consumer today? Not that many. So I think things like blockchain, it's going to take some period to really bake. But the point is that with all these technologies, there's an element of timing, and I believe that if we can actually experiment quickly and understand, okay, so how is this going to really impact our business? And we can just try a very small experiment with a very small team and a very small sprint. I think this is how we're going to future-proof our organizations. And you can't really, listen, I can't predict the future. Neither can anybody in this room. So the best thing that you can do is just to try to experiment. And I appreciate the question. Thank you. We're done? One more? Should we take one more? We're done? Okay, we're done. Thank you so much for your time today. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. I bet the next video is going to be even better. So hit subscribe and we'll chat in the comments.